Hi guys, how are you? Tone,
Hello.
how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. What's up?
Fine, working here. What do you think about Tradelab?
I like it a lot. I've looked for a lot of things. Currently building some strategy and testing them right now. And what I wanted to do was have the ability to have something trade while I'm not watching it, so I could set it up. I'm not looking for the big hits. I'm looking for just steady, a few percentages every day and increasing my USDT and then trade every day with a percentage or have every trade with percentage so the USDT gets bigger and bigger each time. That makes
Nice.
sense to you? Yeah.
Yes,
I mean,
nice.
I see all the indicators on YouTube where people are trying to go for giant hits. Well, that's great, but the bread and butter I think is just having consistent trades a little bit so your risk is not high, but you're getting something every time instead of waiting.
Exactly.
Okay, how about yourself? What are you doing?
You are right. Make compounding profits every day and you
Are,
will grow bigger.
is that working for you right now?
Oh, yes, it's working. I have really complex strategies with signals providers. You can add me and we can chat. I have a good experience in trading. Add me as a friend and I can help you. I know the Trailab really, really well. I'm also a mod in this channel. And we can talk a lot about strategies, Trailab, and so on. I'm glad that you like the tool. I love this tool. I searched for a tool like this for years.
Well, I really started in December, and what got my interest was I've had experience when there's been giant things happening in the market, like planes hitting the twin towers, things like that. And
Yes.
but what happened? I noticed I discovered the similar trading screen. I forgot its name now. The one that had problems in December. That
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I said something's going on. So I looked and I noticed the coins, including Bitcoin, were plunging down to nothing. I knew that they weren't going to die, but people were panicking. So I invested in Bitcoin and a few other coins at the time, and I hit it almost near the bottom.
Nice.
And
Nice.
so after all my trading fees, I'm definitely ahead, and I'm happy. So seeing that, I said, with the um, I using TradingView, I've been looking at tons of indicators. I found a bunch I like, and I have one that's got probably 10 or 11 alerts, but it's very complex, like you described. But that one won't trade every day, maybe once every few days. But then I
Yes.
decided to do something a little different with a very simple strategy with essentially just a few alerts. And I'm running that right now. I did have some difficulties with Trading Lab connecting to my exchange, but I think those are solved.
Okay, cool, cool, cool. Uh, I see everything you have uh, situation with, you can add me and we can talk. Also, you can ping Jake and he will help you with everything you need if you
Well,
have
yeah,
complex errors.
Jake has been extremely helpful
Oh,
on
yes.
this. Yeah,
He's my hero.
yeah, he's saved my life really. So
Exactly. Same here. I really like him a lot, and he's very, very smart. What he builds here, it's beyond amazing.
It's I agree. It's someone's going to buy them out.
Oh yes.
You think so too?
I don't think he will sell it.
What I think it's valued definitely more than 1 million. I mean, more than that. I think it's really quite large.
It's right now the value. What I see the value of Tradelab right now, it's over $10 million.
I would agree with you. It's in that range. Yes.
Yes, I start trading in 2010, and I have experience in trading hedge funds and so on. And this is over $10 million right now. And I talk with Jake a lot. I help him with a lot of things. And what he plans for the future will be a valuation of $100 million in the next year. You are not ready for what is coming. I just accept your friend request.
Thank you. Yeah,
You
I
are
really
welcome.
think this is certainly undervalued. The that has great potential for upside, and even within the current um, trading rules, it's amazing.
Oh
I forgot what
yes.
the one is called. I think it's called the Commander. Did you see that one?
What
That
commander?
Jake created. It's one of the strategies that can manage other strategies within TradeLab. Did you see that?
Yes, yes, yes. I talked with him about that. But
Yeah, I made a video on that a while back.
Jake, he talking about what you told me a few days ago or the old commander strategy?
Yeah, yeah. So I made a video about that a while back, and yeah, it's a
I
pretty
don't
cool
think it's
concept.
been utilized by enough people. I don't think they really understand
Yeah, well,
what the
it's a
potential
more
is there.
advanced concept for sure, right? But yeah. So all right. So thanks everybody for waiting. Let's go ahead and get started here.
Okay,
Today.
I'll mute myself out. Thank you.
Oh, you're good. You're good. I just didn't want to keep everybody waiting. So we got today's AMA. It is February 25th, 2023. We're going to be going over some of the changes that I've made this week, as well as have a small little workshop on how to move take and stop lines during a trade. So we're going to be talking about that, answering any questions anybody has. So let's jump into it. So the main thing that has been changing and that I've been working on recently is the spot trading statistics and tracking. So there's a couple different edge cases that we've been working with spot trading, specifically on Binance and Bitget, and those have been uh, I've been tweaking those and making changes to those. So seeing progress there. I have a couple people that have been helping out testing that. So shout out to those people. Appreciate it. Um, so nothing to really show there. Just to say that it's been going better. We also have been working on an issue with Bybit. So Bybit change the way that they track unified accounts, and therefore, whenever somebody upgrades to a unified account, um, if it's a brand new account and they upgrade, we end up not being able to talk to Bybit correctly. And this is because of a change that Bybit made on their side. I did notify CCXT of this, and they uh, should fix it on their side. They actually have a bunch of changes that are coming out in the next couple weeks, and they seem to be uh, including this change with those changes, even though it's a breaking change that breaks backwards compatibility. So instead of waiting a couple weeks, I've made a change on my side. We've been testing that, and it's about ready. So if you've had any issues connecting with Tradelab to Bybit, and you have a new Bybit account with unified margin enabled, then that's probably what happened. Okay, so that fix should be out. I think it might already be out, actually. No. Okay, so I believe that we're testing it, though, Stone and I think that that's going well, so we'll probably get that pushed out here soon. In addition to that, lots of fixes for spot margin. And then if we go over here, take a look. So I have been working on a couple things in the background that aren't quite ready yet. I've been doing a lot of work on the testnet. So if anybody's interested in seeing what's coming up next, you can always log into the testnet. So you can create a new account. It is a separate website with a separate account system, so you will have to create a new account. However, as you create this new account, you can always transfer all your strategies from the other site over to this test site, so you don't have to recreate them or anything like that. There's a migrate strategies button in here. But I've been testing a couple things in here, and one thing that I can show real quick.
Hey Jake, the screen that you're sharing is the OBS screen. We can't see anything.
Yes, I want to say that, but in YouTube it's you share the right screen.
Okay.
It's only on
Well, at
Discord.
least YouTube sharing. Hold on one second. I swapped around my screens, and that was before after I started streaming on Discord. You can see it now, right?
Yes, perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Wonderful. All right. Thanks for shouting that out. Okay, so if we take a look at testnet, and you guys didn't miss anything because I haven't really shown anything up till now, but right now we'll take a look at the testnet, and if we go in here and hit generate test P&L picture and type in, coin goblin, I'm pretty sure I actually have this disconnected where it's not going to generate I've been testing different libraries for AI generation. We've been using Dolly and haven't been super duper impressed with it, so I've been testing other ones, trying to figure out the best way. And then this one here, yeah, so this is still in progress. You can see that I have a new template here that I'm using, and I'm starting to put all of the text on there. You can actually see over here I have a better example of this. And so this is one of the new templates. We're going to have multiple templates, and we're going to have the AI generated art in the background. It'll be shifted over just a little bit so that the focal point is in the middle for this one. Of course, this one's more like a trading card over here, so it'll be shifted up so that you can see the subject of the picture up here. And yeah, so I've just been slightly working on that in a little bit of my free time there. And a lot of that comes from Midjourney. So if anybody is interested in playing around with AI, you can come to our Discord for free and play around with Midjourney. So we have it as part of our offering here on Discord, and you can see what I did is I came in here and made a whole bunch of trading cards. So I said futuristic trading card template, and it generated me this, right? And then so I was like, okay, I'm gonna take this and cut it up and try to make it something as a template, right, that I can use for the P&L, right? So I generated a bunch of these different pictures, and that's what I'm doing is going through and sort of using these as inspiration to get us better P&L pictures. I am definitely not the greatest artist. This is something that I just whipped together in Photoshop and cut it out, right? I do probably plan on cutting this in Illustrator, Adobe Illustrator, and trying to make it a little bit cleaner and a more vector type of approach. But if anybody is interested in helping me with this or looks at this as like, man, I can do so much better, help me out. Let me know. We'll see what we can work out and go from there. But yeah, so just a little fun there. I eventually want to have like a whole little section where you can pick which template that you want, right, and enter in your prompt, and it'll generate the AI picture for you. So cool stuff with P&Ls, and that's over in the testnet right now. All right. Any questions on that?
I like this. I like this very, very much. The PNL thing.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah, I love it too. Okay. There was also a couple fixes to the community browser. Temporarily, there was an issue with showing all the strategies on this screen. I went ahead and got that fixed. And then there was also an issue with alert sending test alerts. Some of these would get incorrect values in them from stuff that was saved beforehand. And so now I've gotten that fixed, and everything is as it should be when you go to send a test alert. Okay. Also made a couple tweaks to this. Still working on this, adding a couple more use cases to it. And then, sort of as a segue to what we're talking about today, we've had a lot of people interested in, DCA, of course, and it's it's actually pretty easy to set up a DCA here in Tradelab. It just is a little bit more open than a lot of other places. Other places seem to give you like 2 or 3 different modes, and then you say, hey, I want to do it this way or I want to do it that way. With us, you can actually mix and match, and you can have some DCA lines in what they call mode A, and then on the same strategy you could have some other DCA lines working in what they call mode B. So it's a little bit more flexible that way. But to that point, I've had a lot of people, make comparisons and ask, how can we make it so that I can set it up like I used to on Wick Hunter or 3 commas or something like that. One of the things that was pointed out was, I believe it was 3 commas has a DCA preview table where they show you all the safety orders and where they would get hit and that sort of stuff. I actually started working on this. I don't have really much to show on it, but I did start looking at this, and I created a component for it. I haven't gotten back to it yet, but I do intend on putting a table in for the DCA to show you all the safety orders and all that. If anybody has any suggestions on exactly how that should work, I'm really just going off of what 3 commas has. Somebody gave me an example of that, and I'm just sort of working off of that. So if there's any suggestions, anybody has anything that they want to see in addition to that, let me know, and we can get that going. So yeah, so that's what's been going on recently. I think at this point, I kind of feel like I'm forgetting something, but if I am, I'll come back to it. And of course, we got the plugins. The plugins have been working for a little bit now, and we got the Discord in and out, and we can also make webhook calls. I'm still working with people on getting Pine Connector connected. Like I'm actually ready to do it. I just need more testers who actually have bought Pine Connector and have an active license. And so I got a couple that we're about to get started testing here soon. But if anybody else wants to help, shout me out and let me know. This is going to get you connected to MetaTrader, which lets you trade Forex and stocks, right? So that's something everybody's excited about. This is just a sort of a temporary stopgap, right? I do actually want to make my own MetaTrader plugin, so that's coming. So if you can't get Pine connector, you don't want to pay for it. I understand, and hopefully here soon we'll have a different option for you. But this is the first step, getting into Forex trading, and for those who want to be on the edge, this is a great way to do that. So let me know, and we'll get that sorted. Okay, well, I think that's going to conclude the updates and all that. It's been a fairly light week as far as changes to the UI and changes that you guys see. I've been doing a lot of work in the background and also a ton of work on the testnet here. I am still working on the copy trading, so that's just about done. It's starting to work now, and I'm just sort of trying to shake out some of the edge cases. I actually had copy trading working months and months ago, but we started adding things like TPSL lines and other stuff, and it just got more and more complicated, right? And so I've had to rework that whole system, and so now it's just about ready. So yeah, excited about that. All right, so that's going to wrap up this portion of it. We're going to head into the workshop portion next, where we're going to be talking about how to move TPSL lines during a trade, how we can create rules to update our lines and move them around. Okay, before we get into that, is there anything anybody wants to ask, say, anything I should keep in mind that you want to see as I'm going through this workshop? All right. All right.
Jake, please see the chat on this meeting.
Okay. Ah, great. Thanks. Testnet manual trade added TP. Maybe you've corrected it to add to the discussion. I think we talked about that, Stone. Or maybe we didn't. Let's see. Oh, yeah. You clarified. Okay,
Yeah, we
I'm
had
gonna
talked
need a
last
link.
night.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
gonna need a link
we
to
had
that
talked
so I
last
can.
night, and it's currently being tested. I don't know if it will come in because I'm waiting for the TradingView to give a buy signal. So I'm waiting.
Okay. That's what I thought you were saying, but I wasn't completely sure. Okay,
Yep.
yeah, that's great then. Good deal there. But yeah, that's the Bybit fix that I was talking about, everybody, for the unified margin. So that should be coming out here soon, just as soon as Stone is finished testing. Okay, so let's go back here. Copy trading, yes. And then FJ. How can you create an example rule for the following condition? If profit is over 2%, place a stop loss limit order for 1% above the entry price. Wonderful. Yeah, that's exactly what we're talking about today. So let's get into that. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do, I'm actually going to go to the live site so that we can play around with this on the live. And I'm just going to go to my strategies and I'm going to hit the plus button. Okay, and we're just going to start from a blank screen. And the first thing I'm going to do is pick a template. Now, of course, you can start creating rules yourself, right? If you don't want to start with the template, but it's always great to start with one. It saves some time. So I'm going to start with the simple buy and sell. Everything that I'm showing does apply to any of the other templates. What we're going to be talking about is pretty basic stuff, general stuff, okay? So normally you would go through your strategy setup, of course, set up your exchange and your symbol. What we're going to talk about here is how to move these lines. So on the right side, on the sidebar, we have a lines panel. You can set up multiple stop lines, take lines. I'm sure most people watching this have tried that already. So what we want to do is we want to actively change our lines, right? So maybe we want to start our stop line at 2% and we want to move it to break even, right? So we want to move it up after one of our take line gets hit. We also just had FJ give an example of doing a rule to say, hey, place a stop loss when I'm over 2%, right? So maybe I had no stop loss before, or maybe I had a different stop loss and I want to move it, right? And so that's what we're going to be doing. So first off, we know that the blue rules are running when we're not in a trade, right? And so when we're talking about moving our stop loss and our take profits and moving these lines, all of that's really going to be happening in the orange rules, because the orange rules are what's running when we are in a trade, right? And of course, we don't have any lines placed on the exchange when we're not in a trade, right? We just not our takes and our stops, right? So once we open up a trade, we run our orange rules, and this is where we're going to set up our break even and that sort of stuff. So actually, the buy and sell simple buy and sell template has a break even built into it. So to get started, why don't we take a look at this example? And really, all we're doing here is listening for a take line to be hit. Okay, so I made a rule here, and I'm actually going to sort of make the rule as we go. So I'll get this out of the way, and I'll insert a new rule, and I'll sort of make it as I explain it. That way it's easy to follow. So if I hit add condition, the first thing we want to do is we want to look for strategy lines, take line, and we want the is hit, we want that to be true. Okay? So what we're doing here is we're checking to see if that line has obviously been hit. That's actually a field, a value that is managed by Tradelab. Okay, so we automatically watch your line. We're checking it every few seconds, and we're checking to see if it's gotten hit. If it's been hit, we go ahead and set this to true, and whenever your rules run, we'll see that it's been set to true, and this rule will pass and start to run. Okay. If we take a look at the break even that I have here, oh, hold on one second. Seem to have lost. Having a technical issue. 1 second here. Oh boy. One second. Here we go. Okay. Okay, and if we grab this and bring this over. Okay, and then what are you guys seeing? I think everything might have gotten messed up here. Okay, so that's still showing that. Can you guys see my screen still? Sorry about that.
I think I'm missing something.
Oh, I've lost sound.
Your screen is still showing the nice rule.
Hold on 1 second. bummer, man. I can't hear anything. Sorry about this, guys. Let me try to restart. 1 second. How can I get this set up? What can I do? Okay. Okay. It's gonna connect. Alright. Can everybody hear me? But I can't hear you. Let's see.
Yep.
Nice.
Alright, talk
Yeah,
again.
you don't hear us. Now? Do you hear us? You don't hear us.
Man.
I think you lost some people because they logged on and
I'm not
they
hearing
left.
anything, but the show must go on. I will go ahead and check the chat for any questions, and we're just going to continue on, all right? Thanks, everybody, for their patience. So I was down here, and I was working on break-even, all right? And we have take line 1 is hit is true. I just explained that the take line 1 is hit. That's going to be managed by Tradelab, so we're watching it, and we're going to set it to true, okay? The second line here is actually a variable that I made and I put into the template so that it makes it easy to turn this rule on and off. Okay, that's a subject for a different day, but long story short, you can make variables in here and make them like maybe like true false so that you can easily turn on and off certain rules. You'll see that this rule will only work if this variable is turned on. Right, so that's how we can easily turn on and off rules. Alright, so once we have our take line is hit, the next thing we need to do is move our stop line. So we want to move our stop line to the entry price. So I would say strategy lines, stop line, entry price, or sorry, stop line price would be equal to entry price, right? Current trade entry price. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that the current trade entry price for like Bitcoin is going to be 23,000 something, right? And if I started this by going to lines and I created my stop line with a 2% chart move, then it's important to know that if I put entry price in there for 24,000, it would be 24,000%. We don't want that, right? And so to make sure it's not percent, because it's already set to percent, you can see up here it's set to percent right here in chart move for order price type percent, right? So we want to set this to 2, and then we want to, when we're changing our stop price to entry price, we want to make sure that we set our stop line price type to USD exact price. Okay, so that's going to make it, $24,000, right? And that'll move it to the correct spot. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit more about price type in just a second, because we need to talk about how to reset this for the next trade, but we'll come back to that in just a moment. Okay, the next thing we need to do is make sure that this rule is not going to run multiple times. The way that this works is we're checking to see if take line 1 is hit. And if it's hit, and that's equal to true, we're going to run this rule. Well, we run these rules every 15 seconds when we're in a trade. So if we don't set is hit back to false, the next time we run these rules, it's just going to pass again. Okay? And the thing is that every single time that we run an action that does set or add, subtract, multiply, if we touch any of our stop lines here, if I have on the left side here, if I select strategy lines, if we touch any of our strategy lines, if I select my stop line or my take line over here, anytime we're touching any of these, every time that happens, whenever we're done running our rules for that alert, we're going to then update our lines. Okay, so the question is, well, how do I, make it replace my line? This is what you do. It's this simple. There is no extra action you have to run to say, hey, replace the line or set the line here. We're already setting your lines as soon as you enter the trade, right? Because you have your lines here. Any line that's active is going to be placed. Okay, and we're going to come back to this active when we talk about FJ's example here in just a second. But if the line is active, when we go from running our blue rules to running our orange rules, when we hit place order, we're going to place all these lines on the exchange, okay, as conditional orders or sometimes as active limit orders, right? But once they're placed on the exchange, anytime we modify them, if we edit their price or something like that, that's going to cause us to cancel it on the exchange and place it again. Okay? Some exchanges allow us to just modify it. We don't have to cancel. It's really up to the exchange, right? But that's how that works, okay? And so to make sure that we don't run this a second time, we're going to hit take line 1 is hit is false, right? So like I said, we want to set this to false so that it doesn't run a second time. And I just told you that every time we touch these, we're going to cancel the line and replace it. So imagine if we didn't do this. Imagine if this ran over and over every 15 seconds. We'd be constantly canceling our stop line and replacing it, right? Which just isn't a good idea, right? So that's how that works, okay? And that's that. This break even here, this is actually just that's extra. That doesn't need to be there. And that right there, that was a decreased position. This is an action that will take some of the position out of your trade, right? So when we think about taking profit, we often decrease position. I want to clarify something real quick, is that we have two ways to sort of take profits or do stop losses, okay? We can either do them via the lines panel, right? And that this will send those lines to the exchange and have them monitored, okay? If you don't want to send the lines ahead of time to the exchange and you want to hear alerts come in and tell you right then and there, you know, make the order for the stop line or the take line, you could use this decrease position, right? So you would add action, decrease position, and then you can decide how much of the position that you want to decrease. Is it percentage of position or original amount, that sort of stuff, and then that'll take that out, right? So there's two different ways. You don't have to use the line system. If you want to be reactive to alerts, you can. The main thing, honestly, is that reacting to alerts is always going to be slower. Just always is. If we send the line directly to the exchange, they are the market. They are the exchange. No one can go faster than them. And if we have them check that line for us, it can't get any more accurate than that, right? So that's why I recommend using the line system over anything else. But if your strategy requires it, we're more than happy to accommodate that. Okay. So we have the break even. We just sort of went through how to do a break even. Okay, so take line is hit. We move our stop line. One thing that we have to be careful of if we're going to move our stop line here is that we need to always reset for the next trade. Okay, so let's just back up real quick and talk about. Let's just back up real quick and talk about defaults here. So when you take a look at trade settings, or if you look at the lines panel and you see everything that's set up here, these are the live values. These are not defaults. This is not what it's going to start at every trade. Okay, if I type in 2 here, that's great. If a rule changes that to be 24,000, if I come back in here later and look at this, it's going to say 24,000. Okay, this is not resetting anything for you, and that's intentional. It's for a very specific reason. There's so many different use cases, so many different traders out there who need different things. I cannot assume that you want certain things, and so I allow you to make these rules, and you can basically reset it when and how you want. Maybe you want to reset it every trade. Maybe you want to reset it only when you win or when you lose, like a martingale type of thing, right? So it's totally up to you how you want to set this up. But let's talk about how I would reset this for every trade. So if I am moving my stop line and I want to make sure that at the beginning of the trade it starts at 2%, and then when it hits the break even, it might move. So you already see that I'm moving it with my entry price, and I make sure to set my price type. That's important, right? So we got a price type to USD exact price. Now let's make sure that whenever I do my long or short, I set that back. Okay. If you look at the simple buy and sell, I actually have a reset set up already, and what I'm doing is I'm checking the price type to see if chart move, if it's not chart move percentage. You guys see that right there? It's not double equal sign. It's actually an exclamation mark with an equal sign. That's not equals. So we got equals and we got not equals. Okay, so I'm saying price type is not equal to chart move, and that's because we would have changed it with our break even, right? So if this rule ran and we changed it here, then when we come back and close the trade, we're going to start running our blue rules again after we close the trade, and we'll run this and we'll see, oh hey, we changed it. So because we changed it, now I'm going to reset it back to chart move, and then I also have this sort of fancy dancy thing where I'm actually saving whatever it is that you typed into a variable so that I remember how to reset it for you automatically. And I don't know if anybody can wrap their head around that. I can explain it later if it's important to anybody. But basically, I'm just saving the price as a last stop variable, and then when I go to reset it, I use that last stop. So this would be set to 2. In fact, we can look at this, and so right now it's set to 0 because this isn't running, but as it runs, it'll see that it's set to 0, and then set it to whatever I have set up in here, which is 2, right? So alternatively, you could just say 2 right here, and it would say stop line price equals 2, and that would be 2%, right? So I'm doing this inside of an extra rule, but if you had this like super duper simple and you just had a long enter, long exit, you could add it right here as well, right? So you just set strategy line stop price. We'll set that to 2%, 2, and then of course we got to set our price type. So we go into here, price type, USD exact, or no, that's wrong. It's chart move, right? So we want to start with chart move, and then we end with USD exact if we hit our take line. Okay, so I just did that for the long. Of course, I could do the same thing for the short, right? I would set that up as the stop line, right, and go from there. All right, so I think we're good with that. Now let's talk about what JF brought up, because I think that that's a great example of what some people are interested in doing. So let's refresh our memory real quick so everybody's on the same page. Earlier, FJ asked, can you create an example where we have if profit is greater than or equal to 2%, then place a stop line, okay, and that'll be a 1% above the entry price, okay. And real quick, FJ, are we assuming when you say above the entry price, we're actually assuming that is you're looking great, PJ. You're looking absolutely great. I when we say that, are we assuming a long, right? So when you say above the entry price, you actually want to put it into the profit area. That's what you're asking for, FJ? Yes, okay, perfect. That's what I thought. All right. So the way that we would do that is we would create a new rule. Okay, this rule, we're going to look for our, we can do this a couple different ways actually. So we want to activate this when it's over a certain point. Okay, so we can do this a couple different ways. I'm going to show this in 2 different ways. So the first way is that we can look at current trade, and we're just going to look for the, oh, my screen is glitching out on me. Okay, I'm back. Alright, so we just want to look at the ROI percent. You asked for 2%, I believe, once we hit a profit of 2%. So we want to say 2 right here, and that would be ROI percent. Okay, so let's take a look at that one more time. If we look at current trade, it's a lot of different little fields in here that tell you what's going on in the trade, what happened in the last trade as well, how much we entered for, what our entry price was, what our current amount is, that sort of stuff. Okay, and We do take care of tracking the profit, right? So you can get the dollar amount profit right here, and the profit right there, or you can get the percentage of the profit, and we call that ROI, return on investment percentage. Okay, so if we click on that, that'll be ROI percent, and we want to make this greater than or equal to 2. Okay, so once that's done, we now want to make our stop line. Now, there's a couple ways to do this. The stop line, it depends on on how you wanted to start, right? So your rule just says, hey, when I'm above 2%, I want to make a stop line at above there. I assume that you probably already had a stop line, and maybe it was like 2% below, right? And now you want to move it up, and that would be fine. So in that case, you would have your stop line, and we would do the same thing that we did earlier, right? We would just set our stop line, right? We would set the price, okay? And for the price, since you want to go into the profit, you want to do -2, okay? Because stop lines always go in the direction of loss. So if we look at the overview, if you guys haven't seen this, I highly recommend checking out this link here. I'll paste it in the chat. This is a overview of all the different functionality in the builder, and I actually have a slide in here that talks about how to handle line positive and negative values. So if we look at this, if we think about how trading works, when we're in the long trade, when we're going up, we're making a profit. When we're going down, we're losing. Okay, but it's the opposite for short trades. When we go down, we win, and when we go up, we lose. So when we're creating a stop line or a take line, especially for a bot that might actually trade on both sides, does that mean that you gotta like make 2 take lines and 2 stop lines for everything? That would be annoying, right? So instead of doing that, I created a system that sort of handles this for you in a fairly easy way, I think. We just have to remember this fairly simple principle, which is take lines go in the direction of profit, and stop lines go in the direction of loss. You can make a stop line go in the direction of profit, you can, but it would be negative then, right? So a positive stop loss is always going in the direction of loss. That loss direction is either up for a short trade or down for a long trade, right? So when we say loss direction, instead of saying up or down most of the time when I'm talking to people, because I don't know if they're doing shorts or longs, I always say profit or loss direction. I think that's the best way to communicate back and forth, right? So that's what we're doing here. So going back to your example, to set up your stop line 2% in the profit direction for your long, that would be above the entry price, as you said, we would do 2%, right? And if you're new to this, when you're looking through here, obviously you can click on things and select something, but if I just want to do just 2% and I just want to give it a 2, I just type in 2 at the top and I hit enter on my keyboard, and that's 2. Okay, so if anybody is new there, hopefully that helps. Okay, and so of course we want to set this to 2%, and you know, if I got rid of these other break rules, right, these break-even rules, and I just knew that I was going to move from 2% to start with to -2%, then I actually don't have to worry about doing the price type. You see, I mean, it might be a good idea to, get in the habit of doing it if you want, right? But you'll see that if I got rid of these rules and I wasn't actually breaking even and using entry price and changing my price type, if I wasn't doing that, I'm already starting with, chart move percentage, and so I can just keep that. And I don't have to worry about the extra line, okay? Now, if this runs and we get 2% right here, this is going to pass and we're going to move this. Remember what I said earlier? Every single time we touch this, it moves, or it tries to replace, right? Well, think about how logic works. If I get greater than 2%, then I'm 2.1%, 2.2%, 2.3%. But every single time, I'm going to keep replacing because, yeah, we're greater than, but we only want to do this one time, right? Basically, we want to do this one time. So, how about we just do this? Strategy lines, stop line, price is not equal to -2, right? So if we already set it, then don't set it again. Right? So that's a great way to do it. Of course, another way to do it would be maybe to make a variable and to say, hey, have I set my stop line already? Right? So I could make a true false variable and say, did set stop. Right? And I could make did set stop equal to true right here. And once it's equal to true, I want to make sure that did set stop is false whenever I try to run this, right? So now I've actually doubled up my filtering here. I don't actually need this if I'm doing this other condition, but this is two ways to do it. You can do it with this condition, or sometimes you might not be able to do a condition like that. Maybe it's more complicated. This is another way to set that up, right? Make a variable and then just have it track the variable, right? Of course, I should point out, if you are going to make a variable like that, always reset your variables, right? Reset everything that you need to be reset when you start the new trade, right? So if I did set my stop, that's great, but I need to make sure that that's false when I set up a new trade, right? And I would do that in my blue rules, right? Right along with the place order. So like why am I making that inside of my long enter and my short enter? It's because these blue rules are the ones that place the order. So I know that if I reset my stuff along with placing the order, I know that it's going to get reset, right? And I'm not, I can have other rules that do other things, but I know that I'm going to get it reset as soon as I place that order. So that's good. Okay. So far, how are we feeling? Did that cover your question, FJ? And how we're covering that use case there for ROI % greater than 2. Okay, so, and actually, that covers the use case of you moving it. So I just said that perhaps you already had it there, okay? And, I would imagine most of the times you do want a stop loss, right? But let's say that you just totally didn't have a stop loss, or maybe you have multiple stop losses, right? Because that's fine, that's possible. So let's say that this stop line here, how about we go in here, we hit the edit button at the top for lines, and inside here we can see that stop line is active. Well, if I set this to inactive, when I go to place my order, this stop line isn't going to place. Okay, so let's pretend that that's what you want and you're not going to place any stop line, and then whenever you hit the 2%, that's when you want to place the stop line. And we could actually have two stop lines. I could make one stop line that is there, and then instead of moving it, I could keep that there and make a new stop line above the entry price. So now I have two stop lines, just in case one doesn't get totally filled or something like that. You could do that. So maybe I want to have two. One would start off, and one would start on. Okay, so once again, I have my stop line. I would uncheck it. This is the one that's going to start off, right? And so to turn it on, what I want to do is, once my ROI percentage is 2, well, all I got to do, maybe as you might have already guessed, go into strategy lines, stop line, active. That right there, active. And we just hit true. And boom. Now it's going to go ahead and place the line, right? So once again, of course, if we don't want it to start the trade, place the order, we got to go into here and we got to set that to inactive, right? So we would go over here. Once again, active, false. That makes sure that we start it with false, right? And again, I'm entering with long and short, so every time I add an action to here, I should be adding it over here, right? Because I'm entering long and short. And hey, maybe you wanted to have different stop lines set up for a long versus a short. You could totally do that, So yeah, I'm just sort of going through fairly quickly, right, and showing all this. Does anybody want to see anything slow down in particular? Any questions that you guys have? I'm gonna go back because again I can't hear. If anybody, yeah, if anybody's been trying to talk or tell me to shut up, my audio is broken. It broke during the call here, and I just decided to keep going. So if you do have any questions, please go into the chat and let me know what you guys think there. Okay. And yeah, and FJ, I'm just want to hear back from you if you're completely satisfied with that answer. If you have any more questions. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely, Basti.
Okay, well, here we go. Because again, thank
Okay.
you for this
Wonderful.
demo. It
Wonderful.
always raises a couple of
All
questions.
right.
Um,
And yeah, Basti, I can't actually hear, but if you can type your questions in there, I'll try to get those answered for you. Okay, yeah. So sorry to have you make them type it out. I know that's annoying. Um, yeah, sorry. All right, appreciate it. Cool. All right. While we're doing that, I do want to cover something else. Somebody, and forgive me if you're on the call and I'm forgetting who you are, just because I talk to so many people every day, I can't keep everything straight. But somebody suggested that today during this workshop, I talk about the differences between Tradelab and WickHunter, the differences of how to set up DCAs, and how to basically get a DCA set up in that fashion. So to do that, why don't we? I'm gonna save what I have, and I'm gonna make a new strategy, and I'm gonna start with the DCA template right here. Okay, so everybody following along, we're gonna do DCA, and this is actually a pretty simple template. This is actually just the simple buy and sell template. So it's looking for buy and sell alerts. So we would set up our exchange, of course, our symbol. It would ask us to set up our alerts. It's given us 2 alerts. And we would set those up. If you do want to set this up with the TradingView strategy, you could absolutely do that as well. Just start with the TradingView strategy template and set up your alerts for that. Okay. When it comes to this DCA template that I made, it's honestly really bare bones. It doesn't have a whole lot there because setting up the DCA, I've tried to make it really just as easy as possible and a process that walks you through. So when I call this a DCA template, this is really just a simple buy and sell template that I've already come in and added 4 DCA lines for you automatically. Okay, and if you want to come in and edit these DCA lines, you can. Okay, and you can do that. You can add more if you want. I just assume though, I just delete these and say, hey, thanks Jake, but no thanks. I'll make my own. Right. So I'm going to come in here and delete these, and then I'm going to press the plus button. So what I'm about to show you, this can be done for any strategy. If you have a break-even strategy, a rolling take profit strategy, if you have whatever lines you're trading off of, you can always add these DCA lines. So this is not a DCA mode like 3 commas or WickHunter where, hey, you're going to make a DCA bot and this is the options that you have. No, you're allowed to tack on DCA to anything that you want. Okay? And so to do that, all we have to do is press the plus button at the top on these lines, and you can press the DCA right here. And this is going to start making us DCA lines. Now, how many do we want? This is actually going to allow us to create multiple lines all in one go without having to repeat this process. So maybe I want to make 5 lines. Okay, I'll hit next, and it says, how do you want to space the lines? So if I wanted to have my lines have completely different spacing, if I wanted to do 1%, 5%, 20%, 50%, just no rhyme or reason to the gaps, then I could do pick offsets for each. I could also do equally spaced, and obviously that would be like 2, 4, 6, 8, right? So if you want them all to be equal, you can do that. We also ask you pretty much the same question when it comes to the amount, right? So these guys are going to be adding to your position. Do we want them to add the same amount on every DCA line, or does one DCA line enter more than another, right? And I'll show you here how to do this with the equally spaced first to give you an example. So with the equally spaced here, if I'm going to do 2, 4, 6, 8, then I would just type in 2. Okay, and that 2, 4, 6, 8 is just gonna add that together and make that. Now, if I wanted to start at 3 and then go 3, 5, 7, 9, I would put this at 3, and then I would put my price addition to 2. Sorry, there we go. I would start at 3, and then it's going to add 2 to that 3. So 3, 5, 7, 9, right? 3 commas and Wick Hunter, I believe, both use a multiplication instead of addition. So when I first made this, I thought this was the best way to explain it. I can start at 3 and then I can add 2 each time, and that's equal spacing. But they wanted to do equal spacing in terms of like a multiplier, right? So if it's like 1.5 times the size of 3. So instead of 3, it would be 4.5, right? Because I'm taking 1.5 times the size of that, right? So that's how you set those up. And so if I wanted to do, 5, 10, 15, 20, I would just do this. And I could actually leave this at 0. If you leave this at 0, it's just going to repeat this, 5, 10, 15, 20. Okay? So that's how that works. Any question there? Yeah, so you're still typing your questions. Good. I want to cover everything. I don't want to make it too complicated. So if this is all you can handle, shut your ears for a second. But I'm going to cover one more thing. For people who want to get advanced and people who understand what trigger lines are, well, you're going to be setting up your DCA lines. You can set them up as trigger lines so that whenever they don't actually get placed in the order book right away. Okay, that way you don't get like hunted, right? And people are trying to mess with you, right? So one way to do this is to set up a trigger price that is different from the order price that you have. So if I was gonna do my DCA line at 5%, that's fine. I might want to put my trigger price at 4.5. Okay, and once again, just like we talked about with the stop lines, DCA lines go in the direction of loss. So when I say 5% or 4.5%, we're talking down for a long, right, or up for a short, right? It goes in the loss direction. Okay. So in this trigger price, what I'm talking about, the 4.5, instead of whenever I first enter the trade, I go ahead and put that on the order book as at 5%, so everybody can see it 5% ahead of time. Instead of doing that, I could use this trigger price, and I could say 4.5, and now no one's going to see it until we finally hit 4.5, and then all of a sudden I'm going to place automatically an order for 5%. So that it can get hit, right? So that's just another thing I wanted to point out. We can have a whole separate discussion about trigger prices. I know that's new to some people, but that's optional. Okay, so you can turn that off. Okay, and of course we also we're gonna walk through some other questions. Okay, so one other thing that we're gonna ask is, what do you want to do when the lines are hit? For this, I actually want to add to. So I accidentally clicked take a second ago. Instead, I want to hit add to position. In this add to position, how much do you want to add? Well, remember earlier it asked me if I wanted my 5 different lines to have different amounts. I said I wanted them to all have the same amount. So this is the screen that I get, right? And I could say 100% of the original amount, and that would mean that every single time I hit a DCA line, it's going to buy the same amount that I originally entered for. So if I entered for 100, it's going to buy another 100, another 100, another 100. Okay, so that's the percentage of the original amount. Now, I could do this exponentially. If I did percentage of position, imagine what happens then. If I start with 100 and I do 100% of my position, I'm going to make another order for 100. But that means now my position is 200. So now when I do another 100% of my position, I'm going to put in 200 now. Well, now my position's 400, you see, and it just keeps, it's exponential. It's doubling, right? So you can totally do that. Most people probably want to use the original amount, right? So that you just enter in that 100 every time, right? And that's usually what you want to do. Of course, you can enter a USD or even a percentage of your balance. We added that a couple weeks ago. So if you guys want to enter in 20% of your balance every DCA line, you can do that. Okay. Real quick, I guess I should add quote balance and coin balance. For those trading contract, this doesn't matter. Pick whatever you want. It's the same thing. But if you are trading spot, this can matter, right? And I trust, hopefully, that most people understand what I mean by this. But like quote would be your USD, right? And coin would be your BTC, and basically you have two different balances for spot at that point, right? So you need to pick the right balance for what percentage you want to come from. Okay. All right. So, oh, gosh darn it, I just exited out. So yeah, we're making our DCA lines, and actually this is great because let me show you what it looks like if you pick offsets for each and pick amounts for each now. Okay, so instead of equally spaced, we're going to go through this, and now, you know, as you would expect, I have 5 different sets of values here that I can fill in for each of my lines. So I would fill in those 5 different values, maybe, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Okay. And once we're done with that, of course, we add to position, and here again, we get 5 different boxes for our amounts now. So I could say 10%, 20%, and it could increase or decrease however I want there. Okay. To finish up, we're going to select what type of lines these are. Most of the time for your DCA, it's probably going to be a limit line. It's up to you though. You can do market. And then we'll say DCA. If I just name this DCA, it's going to add numbers to it. So if I had DCA, it's going to be DCA 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So I just set up 5 different safety orders. Okay. And you can see that it's set up there, and I didn't fill in my my amount, but I can go into quick edit and I can easily edit the amount of each of these. But that's how you can easily create 4, 5, 10 different safety orders. It's a wizard that walks you through how to create them. It asks you questions. And for a DCA, you should just want to add to your position and maybe select a limit order and then tell it how much to add and where to put it. Right? From there, the DCA line will be placed on the exchange and it will add to your position. So it will put an order for buying more or selling more, right? And we actually don't need to do anything after that. Because we send it to the exchange, we're going to monitor it to see if it's hit or not, just in case you want to know. But they fill the DCA order, your position gets larger. One thing I should mention, of course, most people will ask this. So when my DCA line gets hit, is my entry price updated? Yes. Yes, it is. So whenever your position increases, I go and grab the new entry price. And so if you were to use a condition here and you were looking for the current trade's entry price, yes, that would get updated. And of course, if we're updating the entry price, does that mean that if I have a take line and one of my DCAs got hit, that my take line is going to move? Yes. If your DCA lines get hit, all of your other lines will reset. So that's what's special about DCA lines. So if your position increases, we will always hold on, let me think about what I'm saying. If your position increases, we will always update the entry price. Okay? If your position increases, no matter what, if it's a take line, stop line, DCA line, doesn't matter. If your position increases, if an old order was partially filled and it finally got filled, your position increases, right? And we will always update your entry price there. Okay? However, we don't always make that force replacing all other lines. That might be problematic, right? If that did, and so in that case, you could create a rule to say, hey, if my entry price changes, then update my lines. You could definitely do that, but of course, with DCAs, it's pretty common that when you hit a DCA line, you want your other lines to be replaced, and so that's just built in. Okay, so when you go to make a new line and it asks you, if you select this DCA right here, anytime it says it in the box, anytime a DCA line is hit, it will make all other lines replace themselves with the new entry. Okay, so I hope that clears up how DCAs are made. Honestly, it's pretty simple. I know I get a lot of questions about it. How do you set this up and that up? Maybe if somebody has like a more complicated DCA question or example, I could cover that here before we get off the call here. But yeah, I mean, honestly, you just go in, press plus, and fill out the questionnaire for DCA. And once again, DCA lines are just like any other line, so they follow the same rules, right? Maybe you want to prepare all your DCA lines and get them ready, but maybe you don't want to place them right away. You could turn them off to inactive and maybe turn them on. Maybe you have multiple grids of DCAs, and the exchange only lets you place like 10 orders at a time. Well, if you want to create 10 different lines here and then just move them, you could do that. Or you could create 30 lines here and have only 10 of them be turned on at any given time, right? So that's something. And on that subject, in case anybody's wondering, I am working on the ability to dynamically create lines. It won't actually be dynamically creating lines. It'll actually be a line group and a variable group. So instead of just having one variable that has one number in it, you could create a variable that holds 20 numbers. Okay, and then you could edit each number and check each number individually. You could average the numbers together. You could get, a flow, a slope of all those numbers as if they were a line on a graph, that sort of thing, right? So those are groups, and those are coming to both variables and lines, and that'll also allow you to add stuff to the group. So maybe you started with 2 lines in group A. Maybe I make a group A and it's got 2 lines. Maybe I want to add 10 more lines to that in the middle of the trade. And then once the trade is done, maybe I want to clear out group A and then reset it back to 2 lines, right? And so that's all coming. That's on the roadmap, in the plans. But in case anybody's wondering, that's not available yet, right? So if you did want to set up 30 different lines, you would set up your 30 lines and set them to inactive, right? And then activate them with your rule whenever you want. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna start digging into Basti's questions here, but before we do, would anybody have any questions on DCAs? Oh no, you're fine. You're fine. Just want to make sure we have all the questions, and I think some of your questions are on DCA, so that's fine. We'll cover those. But just based on what I just talked about, any questions on that setup? Is that too simple? Is it not doing enough? Are people expecting more for DCAs? Let me know, right? And actually, I think at this point, most of the people in here on the call are fairly veteran. I know JP and PJ and them know, and Stone and Will. I'm not sure that you've done DCAs, but I'm pretty sure you got a handle of it. So, okay, all right. So let's take a look at Basti's questions, and then we're gonna slowly start to wrap up here. So you said that we could have conditional or active limit orders. What's the difference and how do we set to either type? Very good question. Very good question. All right, so let's go back into the line builder. If I ever say, hey, go into the line builder, this is what I mean right here. So lines panel, press the plus button. This is the line builder, the TPSL line builder. Okay, so this right here, your question, how do we set active limit orders? This is it right here, active limit order, right? So this is a line that is placed in any direction. +1 always goes in the profit direction. -1 always goes in the loss direction. This line is placed as an active limit order, meaning it's immediately put into the order book. Okay. You can't really do this with a market. I mean, you can try, but obviously as soon as you put it in, since it's market, it doesn't have a price, it's just going to get filled immediately, right? So, but you can do that. And if I take a look at the quick edit, it's also right here. So if we're looking at the quick edit, line type, right? Line type, and it's take profit, stop loss, DCA, or it says limit order right here. So this is the active limit order, right? So this is conditional, this is conditional, this is conditional, this is an active order. Okay, we only need one of these because it's a really simple concept. It's just an active order, right? But all these have sort of different different specialties to them. I should say when you're placing active limit orders, these are just regular orders. Okay, they don't really have. Well, I should preface this. With the exception of, I believe, Phemex, they don't really have the ability to just place an active limit order, like that's not a take profit, that's not anything, and just place it along with a position. Okay, so like if I have a position open and it's for 100 and I want to close that, right? If I'm doing a take profit or something and it's a real stop order, then that 100 that I'm making the order for, it's already in the position. So they're not going to take $100. I don't need $100 in my wallet, right? Because I'm just trying to sell what I already have. What I'm trying to warn you here is that when you create limit orders, these are regular orders, right? These aren't necessarily orders that are attached to the open position, so they will require funds from your account. In most cases, though, like it's weird. I don't know. It's hard to explain. So if you had an order open for 100 and you tried to sell it and it wasn't attached to the position, they're going to earmark $100 of your wallet to say that you need to have that. But when you actually go to sell, because it's selling and there's an open position, it's actually not going to take any money out of your wallet, right? Like, let's try to be clear about that. It's just like the rules and how an exchange allows you to place an order. Yeah, so I'm sorry if that was confusing. But anyway, the limit order here, this is how you do active limit order. Okay? Great. Okay, how does the take profit orders with pyramiding? If you have, for example, have the one entry take profit at 1%, but then it adds a pyramid. Well, the first entries take profit at 1%. Yes. So I did answer that. When you're doing pyramiding or DCAs or anything like that. Well, okay. I get what you're asking. For the pyramid, the pyramid that he's talking about, so that everybody's on the same page, this is built into the templates. So like if I open up the TradingView strategy template, I'm pretty sure the simple buy and sell has it as well. There's some extra rules in here for pyramid. when this increases, we do update. I gotta reach into my brain and think about how it works. Yes. Well, yes. Yes. Yes, it should. I believe it does. I, I'm pretty sure it does. And if it's not, then we can definitely make it do that. I haven't had anybody actually ask that question, so I'm kind of caught off guard. Everybody's been using it and they've been happy with it, so it makes me think whatever they expect, it's doing what they expect. But no, you're right. That is a good question. I'm almost 95% positive that it does or that it should, because it runs the same code. Increased position runs the same code path that DCA ends up running. So yeah, I believe so. The longer I think about it, the more doubt I'm filled with. We'll have to test that, and we'll figure out. That's a very good question. I'm glad you asked that question. We'll look into that. And while we're on the subject, why don't you tell me what you would expect, what you would like in that situation? So if we do a pyramid and we run a rule, do you expect it to automatically move your take lines? I could see, like the more I think about it, I could see how that would screw somebody up if they didn't want that, and so maybe I'm thinking maybe I didn't do that. I gotta go back and look. But thanks for the question, and yeah, I'll try to bring this up next week, and I'll definitely get back to you on that. Okay. How is the move to entry price determined with DCA? Is this an average? Yeah, so the entry price is given directly by the exchange. So I'm not calculating it. The exchange is calculating it, and we're just using it, right? So as soon as we modify the position, we get the latest entry price for that position. And then we use that. So it is averaged, and it's averaged weighted upon how much you bought, right? So like, if you bought at $50 and at $100, your entry price would be $75. But if you bought more at $50 than you did at $100, then your entry price would be lower than 75, right? Stuff like that. Okay. If you are doing a trailing SL, you also want to reset these settings on a new trade. Yes, same thing. So if I, let's say that I had, let's say that I am in here doing my my new strategy, and actually that's not what I wanted. Let's see. Go into here. Okay. So let's say I'm doing my strategy and I want to make a trailing take profit. So a great example would be, hey, I got this break even here, but whenever I hit break even, I want it to start trailing behind. Okay, so let's say that my take profit is 2%, and my stop line used to be at 2% below for the long. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna move it up to the entry price, and then I'm gonna turn trailing on. Okay, so to do that, and I'll explain what that means in a second. To do that, if we look at our lines, there's a trailing box right here. If this trailing box is checked, it's a trailing stop loss. Okay, you'll notice that trailing is grayed out for take lines, for any line that is not stop loss. That is because it has to be a very particular type of line for me to send it to TradingView, or sorry, to the exchange. Most people will then ask, well, hey, I want to do a trailing take profit. Technically speaking, there's no such thing as trailing take profit on a technical level. What you're really asking for is a line that is in the loss direction, that is trailing behind wherever the price is going, right? And you want it to be behind the price, but maybe when you're saying I want a trailing take profit, what you're saying is it'll be behind the price, but I want it to be above the entry price, right? I want it to be in the profit direction with respect to the entry price, and we can totally do that, right? So we could do trailing, and we could do -2, right? And that would set it 2% above the entry price, and then start doing trailing. Okay, so you can see here that I'm doing offset from entry price. That's the default. Okay, and let's say that I started at 2 and I have this off, and when I do break even, I'm gonna say now add my action to set stop line trailing to true. And now all of a sudden it's going to start trailing. Once it hits break even, it's going to start moving. Now, how far is it going to start moving, and where is it placed? Well, we just moved it to entry price, okay? And we just said that our take line 1 was just hit. So that means that our entry price, or sorry, our current price is above our entry price if we're doing a long, and maybe our take profit was 2%. So that means that most likely our current price is 2% away from our entry price. Okay, and so if I turn trailing on, that means that I'm going to have a 2% trailing, because I've set this line at the entry price, and my current price is 2% above. So I say turn on trailing, and it's going to trail, and that's going to be the maximum trailing amount there, 2%. It will never go more than 2%. It'll always trail behind 2%, right? Now, go back to this edit screen. What if we, this is me setting it based on my entry price, right? So maybe I move it to my entry price at 0. Maybe I move it above my entry price at 1. But what if I just want to say, Jake, I want to trail behind 1%, behind 2%. I don't care about the entry price. I just want to trail with a 1% stop loss. Well, you can change this to current price instead of entry price. And now we're going to be 1% below the current price, 2% below the current price. You wouldn't do -2 here or -1 because you can't go above the current price, right? You can't do that. But we can do 2% below the current price, and that's going to make us trail 2%. Okay. Hopefully that helps there. To check, a negative is for a long and a short in the example that I made. I'm gonna have to get a clarification on that last question. To check, a -2, as in the example you made, is for a long and a short. Yeah, the -2 can be used for both. And it will move that stop loss into the profit direction for either a long or a short. Yeah, so you don't have to worry about making that different for longs and shorts. Hopefully that helps answer that question. Okay, and then can we set up a take spot profit in the coin traded? So if we trade BTC spot and I have a profit, and then I exit the trade, how can we get the profit in BTC instead of USD? Well, yeah, so, I mean, that is a fairly simple question, I believe. So if you're trading spot, and you have an exchange selected, and you have a symbol selected, now, normally with spot, if I'm doing BTC, BTC USD, okay? If I'm doing BTC, normally I would start a spot trade, by buying. I would spend USDT for BTC. okay, and I would then own BTC. I've spent my USD for it, and I have a position open. Whenever I want to end that trade, I would sell my BTC and I would get USD back. That would mean that whatever profit I made is in USD. Okay? If we wanted to do that the other way around, I would have to have my money already in BTC. I'm starting with money in BTC. Okay, when I start a trade on Tradelab, instead of buying like you normally would for a spot, we're going to sell first. Okay, so we set our side to sell or short. It's not really a short trade because it's a spot, right? We can't really do a short trade on spot, but what we can do is we can sell first. Okay, so now we're going to sell and we're going to track that trade, and whenever we want the trade to end, we're going to buy back in. Okay, so at this point though, you're looking for that chart to go down, right? Because the chart goes up whenever the price of the coin gets increased, right? And what you're looking for now is you're trying to look for the you're gonna sell. I'm gonna sell one Bitcoin, okay? And if I sell that Bitcoin, I'm gonna get a bunch of USD. And I'm hoping that the price of Bitcoin goes down because I just got $20,000. If the price goes down to 15,000, I can buy a Bitcoin and a quarter. I can buy 1.25 Bitcoin, right? And so you're sort of shorting. You're kind of trying to make money when the price goes down. But the truth be told, you're not really making any money until the price goes down and then goes back up after you've rebought in for more. Right, because once the price goes down and you have 1.5 Bitcoin, oh yeah, you made more money, more Bitcoin, but that Bitcoin is now worth less, right? So now you got to wait for the Bitcoin to go back up, and now you truly made money, right? So it's a little complicated when people are trying to do that, but that's how you would do that with spot. Okay. Limit orders will be placed in a order book position, then a conditional order. Well, no. So to be clear, orders are placed in the order book on a first come first served basis. So okay. So kind of yes to answer your question within context. Kind of yes. So if you were to have an active limit order as a line in Tradelab and a conditional order as a line in Tradelab, your active limit order is going to go into the order book first, right? Because it's going to get placed in the order book immediately, which would mean, yes, that it's going to be ahead in line of your other order. It doesn't mean that it's obviously ahead of anybody else who was there before you got there, right? So it doesn't automatically make you first. But it does mean that it goes in the order book faster, right? And you would be first in line in comparison to maybe if I was placing an order at the same exact price as you, and mine was conditional, mine might enter in later, right? Because mine got triggered later, but you entered exactly at the beginning. Right? Awesome. Awesome. Yep. So those are great questions. Great questions. Love it. Okay, checking some more to make sure we don't have any other questions. Alright. Yep. We'll take a look at that. Will. And see if we can find. Do you have a link to that, Will? Can you grab me the link? And we'll take a look at that for you. Okay. Wonderful, wonderful. All right. Well, I think that wraps up the majority of what I wanted to show with DCA, with moving, taking stop lines. It's honestly fairly pretty basic information. There's it can get more complicated, right? There are some use cases and things. Everything I showed is pretty much everything you need to know, right? Like I've showed all the options. I pretty much talked about all the options here. You got your trigger price. I talked about the offset. I gave an example of everything. Can these things be used in slightly different ways than I showed today, making it totally new possibilities that I haven't talked of before? Absolutely. There's just so many ways that this can be used, and so it doesn't surprise me if somebody has questions, and it doesn't surprise me if you need to watch this video again. It's on YouTube. We'll post it there. It's streaming. So, there's a lot here, but honestly, for me to sit down and go through all of this with you guys, you can see, it's there really isn't a whole lot to it, right? Like when I set up the DCA, we just go through the DCA and we answer the questions, and that gives us our DCA lines. When I want to move a stop line, I just create an action and I tell it to move. There's a couple things I got to remember, like of course doing the defaults and resetting things, but yeah, hope that's pretty simple for everybody. So awesome, thanks, Will. I'll go ahead and check that out. All right. Cool. Well, is there anything else that I can help anybody with? Also gonna check YouTube, make sure nobody's messaged on YouTube. Oh, we do got a message. Hey, good tutorials. Please update the invite link to Discord. Oh no. Okay, yeah, I will do that. I'll make sure that on the YouTube description, I'm assuming that it's done. What does this error mean? What error? So, Razank, sorry, I just saw all of your questions, and I know that you're probably, oh, there's the error, probably hearing this with the delay on YouTube, but this one here, yeah, so this looks like there's an issue trying to get your balance. Okay. Have you joined the Discord yet? I know that the link was bad. Let me make sure that you have a Discord link. Please join us on Discord and send me a link to the strategy that happened to, or basically just click on the error, so the error that you just copied, if you click on that in Tradelab, it'll take you to a new page, and if you copy the link of that page and send it to me, I'll go ahead and take a look and see what we can find there. It might be related, so I was just messing with, who was that for? Who was I just talking to before this call? Ziv. I was just talking to Ziv, and I changed some stuff around for spot balances to make sure that we got the spot balance when you're doing spot and not contract. What was happening was we were getting all the balances, but in the case that like the contract and spot both had USD, the contract was overriding the spot, and so now we should be okay. And what I see from you're using contract. So I think that you should be okay with your balance. But yeah, if you could join us on Discord, send me that link. I will take a look and get that resolved for you. Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. I appreciate it. This is a pretty good stream. I think we covered a good amount. sorry that I can't hear anybody. I'm sorry that I had technical difficulties, but hopefully that'll go smoother next time. All right. So going once, going twice. I'm gonna check the chat one more time. Anything got anybody to say? Yep. Thank you guys. Thanks. Oh, I mentioned copy trading is as good as done. You have global ETA. Yeah. Uh, I mean, so I'm really trying to get it done, like before March, like the first week of March. You know, like I got some other people waiting on it. They've been waiting so patiently, and they've been so nice about it. And they said, "Hey, can you please get this working by March?" And so I'm really trying to have it done and fully tested by the beginning of March. So doing my best. All right, guys. Well, thanks so much. And we'll catch you guys in the next one. I'm going to go ahead and shut off the stream now. Thanks, everybody, for watching on YouTube. And yeah, thanks. What was that name? Razank. Razank, thank you for stopping by and join us on Discord. Looking forward to talking to you there. All right, see you guys next time. Have a good one.